Hey guys, tonight we're stepping onto an island off the coast of Newfoundland where time quite literally stopped in 1934. You hear the low groan of rusted hinges, feel the grit of sea salt thick in the air, and you swear those wooden planks beneath your feet remember more than they let on. There's no Wi-Fi here, no cell towers, no distant sound of a passing plane, just you, the rising mist, and the eerie certainty that something about this place isn't right. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I always love seeing how far this sleepy little corner of the internet reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step off the ferry, or at least what was once a ferry. The skeletal remains of its hull still bob just enough to creak, as if sighing after a long nap. The dock is splintered but intact, reaching into still water that feels like it hasn't rippled since Prohibition ended, and beyond it, trees too straight, air too still, silence that presses in like wool. You take your first step onto the forgotten Canadian island whose name once appeared on maps and now doesn't. You've seen vintage atlases from the 1920s that list it proudly next to Fogo Island and Change Islands, but in any digital satellite view, there's just ocean, or a greenish blur with no label. At first glance, the village ahead could be mistaken for a well-preserved movie set. Small wooden houses, their shutters swinging gently in the breeze. Mailboxes waiting for letters that'll never come. A general store with faded lettering, shelves still stocked with canned meat and dusty jars of peppermint candies. But everything, every single thing, dates to 1934. Not just the architecture. The newspapers left on porches talk about Franklin D. Roosevelt, not TikTok. Inside one house, you spot a calendar with curled corners that ends at July. The 17th is circled. You'll start seeing that date a lot. And here's the thing that gets you. It doesn't feel old. It feels paused. The beds are made. Clocks are ticking. Dinner plates are out with petrified food still clinging to them. Shoes are lined up neatly at front doors. One armchair still cradles the faint impression of a body. Even the smells don't match the timeline. You expect musty decay. Instead, you get wood smoke, sea salt, and the faintest whiff of cinnamon, maybe from the bakery down the lane. If you believe in ghosts, this is their living room. If you don't, well, you're gonna have a harder time sleeping tonight. You reach the town square, or what qualifies for it here. A stone fountain, bone dry now, surrounded by benches engraved with names you've never heard of. But they sound real. M. Linscott, 1918. E. Hargreaves, 1927. You pause in front of a brass plaque fixed to the base of the fountain. It reads, "We gather here, we wait here, we remember here." Poetic. Creepy. You pick. Here's the thing about this island. No one talks about it anymore. But in the early 1900s, it was on the upswing. Fishing, timber, even rumors of offshore oil kept families rooted here. Canada wasn't just aware of the island, it was investing in it. There was a small school, a church with weekly sermons. Radios shipped in from Montreal. They even built a little airstrip, though no one's quite sure if any plane ever landed on it. And then 1934. Historians still argue whether it was weather-related or something less meteorological. Theories range from a sudden storm that trapped and drowned the community, though no wreckage was ever found, to a mass migration due to economic collapse, though no one ever arrived at the mainland, to more fringe claims involving geological time fractures and electromagnetic anomalies. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. Right now, you're walking past houses with lace curtains still fluttering behind cracked glass. You peer into one and see a half-completed jigsaw puzzle of a ship on the ocean. The final pieces lie in the box, never placed. You turn a corner and find a child's tricycle lying on its side in the middle of the road. No rust, no dust, just abandonment, perfect and timeless. A black cat darts across the street and vanishes behind a barn. You chuckle. Of course there's a black cat. The universe has a sense of humor, even when it's giving you goosebumps. Then you hear something. Not a voice, not a footstep, a song, faint, scratchy, like it's playing from an old phonograph a few houses down. You follow it because of course you do, and step onto the porch of a home with a red door. The song stops. The door creaks open on its own. Inside, it's warm. Not central heating warm, but someone just left the oven on. Warm. The kitchen table is set for two. A note lies beside a butter dish. Be back before sunset. Don't forget the jam. You sit down. You don't mean to, but the chair almost pulls you into it. And for a moment, just a moment, you forget what year it is. You forget where you came from. You feel the weight of someone else's life settle onto your shoulders like an old coat that still fits. And then your phone buzzes in your pocket, except it doesn't. The screen's black, dead. You press the power button. Nothing. But the ticking continues. Loud now. Rhythmic. Coming from every room in the house. Every clock ticking in perfect, unnatural unison. This island didn't die. It just stopped. And now you're here, right on time. You step back outside, unsure how long you were sitting at that table. The air feels cooler now, the mist a little heavier, shadows longer than they should be at this hour. Your footsteps echo strangely as you make your way down the village's main street. Not loudly, but wrong, slightly delayed, like someone is copying you from just out of sight. You remember the briefcase you saw in the hallway of the Red Door house, leaning neatly against a coat rack. Inside were papers stamped Canadian Northern Fisheries, and a ledger filled with names, numbers, shipments. All of it dated again to July 1934. The island wasn't just a sleepy fishing village. It was a humming outpost of trade, tucked into a fog pocket off the Atlantic, a place that mattered. Back then, it even had a name, Greywick Island. A little dramatic, sure, but evocative. The kind of name that deserves stories. And it had them. Everyone on the Newfoundland coast had heard of it, not because anything bad happened there yet, but because it was doing well. There was a small port, a wharf built sturdy enough to hold off storm tides, an old Marconi wireless tower for ship communications. You weren't nobody if you were sending fish from Greywick. You pass the radio shack now, a squat wooden building with an iron antenna still bolted to its roof. You try the door. It opens easily. Inside, the room smells of metal and seawater and something burned long ago. The radio set sits dead center, its dials dusted over but intact. Someone carved words into the edge of the table. June 29, message received. July 1, message ignored. July 17, no more messages. You don't know what that means. Not yet, but the calendar inside the shack also ends on the 17th. Back outside, you hear the screech of gulls overhead, but when you glance up, nothing. Not even clouds, just a flat, lead-colored sky. Let's rewind a bit. On July 10th, 1934, the last known ferry from the mainland departed Greywick. There are photos of the passengers' grainy, sepia-toned shots showing men in caps and women in long coats holding travel trunks. It was a celebration. The town had just opened its new bakery. Electricity had been wired to 3 more buildings. There was even talk of a cinema coming in, a little slice of the modern world. 7 days later, gone. What gone means depends on who you ask. Some reports, most of them lost to time-mentioned signals picked up in John's, bursts of static mixed with unintelligible Morse. Others claim the wireless tower was dismantled by the government to prevent hysteria about what was never explained. Historians still argue whether the disappearance was political, natural, or something more. Some lean toward a severe nor'easter that wiped out communications. Others suggest a localized disease outbreak that was quietly contained. One even wrote a paper proposing that a nearby naval exercise accidentally irradiated the island. And then there's the theory that gets you whispered about at conferences. They left, together, voluntarily. No records, no arguments, just up, and walked into the mist. The evidence? Thin, but interesting. There are notes and journals recovered from homes here, brief snippets. The sky looks wrong today. Don't forget the signal. He said 17 means safe. Who he is, no one knows. Maybe a local preacher, maybe a captain, or maybe just a voice someone heard that they decided to trust. You walk past the bakery now. The smell of stale flour still clings to the bricks. Through the window, you can see a glass counter cracked, but mostly whole. Behind it, trays of bread, fossilized in shape, but still recognizable. One even has a bite taken out of it. A half-drunk mug of tea rests beside a register, and taped to the register, in perfect cursive, "All debts forgiven, go with peace." The streets are still empty, not even birds. You'd give anything for the sound of a squirrel rustling through leaves. Instead, you hear wind, gentle, but constant, and the occasional whisper of something brushing against your jacket when nothing's near. At the far end of the village is a community hall. You try the doors. Locked. You peer through the windows. Inside, there are rows of folding chairs and a chalkboard with one word in capital letters: prepare. You start to notice a pattern. That word shows up a lot, carved into doors, scratched into tree bark, written in chalk along the edge of a well. Prepare for what? No one says. Maybe the islanders were expecting something, or maybe they knew something, and maybe that something had a very precise deadline. July 17, 1934. The official records what little remain are comically sparse. Government archives list the island as uninhabited since the mid-1930s due to economic migration. There's a single blurry aerial photo from 1946 showing the building still standing, untouched. A memo in the margin says, "No retrieval necessary." And yet, someone maintained the place. The houses didn't rot. The roads didn't vanish into the forest. Even now, the island feels watched over. Like someone, or something, ensures that time doesn't erode it. You round a corner and find a bicycle leaning against a lamppost. Its tires are full, its chain oiled. There's no dust on the seat. Then you spot something else. A fresh footprint in the mud, next to your own, and it's not going the same direction. You spin around. Nothing. Just houses and fog and the quiet hush of a place waiting. You remind yourself you're alone, but the island doesn't feel empty. It feels paused, like it's taking a breath, and you've just stepped into the inhale. You start walking faster now. The logical part of your brain is trying to reassure you maybe it was your own footprint from earlier. Maybe the bicycle fell over in the wind and someone set it back up. Maybe that teacup didn't really have steam curling from it, but you know it did. You loop back toward the docks, hoping for some perspective. Maybe even a hint of civilization across the gray water. But as you reach the edge, your heart sinks. The ferry that brought you? Gone. In its place, calm, undisturbed waves lapping against rotting wood. No engine noise, no ripples leading away. Just water, and that strange sense that time here doesn't just pass. It waits. You sit on a bench by the dock, the wood damp but not cold. You can feel the island pressing in. It's subtle, like the way a closed room seems to lean toward you after a few too many minutes without fresh air. And that's when it hits you. There's no sound of the sea. Not really. No gulls, no lapping tide. The air is silent, dead silent. You remember reading once about a phenomenon called acoustic shadow, where specific atmospheric conditions or landscape formations can completely block sound. Military historians argue whether this explained why soldiers couldn't hear cannon fire during certain battles. Could it be happening here? Or is something absorbing the sound? You leave the dock and head back inland, detouring through a row of once colorful homes. One door swings open as you approach it. Not in the wind, there isn't any. Just on its own. Inside, it's a nursery. Wallpaper of faded ducks and moons. A crib, hand-carved. A rocking horse positioned beside it, worn smooth from decades of love. On the floor lies a rag doll, its button eyes uneven. You notice something strange in the crib. An open baby book, page after page filled out meticulously. Name, birth date, first word, fish, first tooth. But the final entry sends a chill up your spine. Last night she pointed to the door and said, "The boat's here." But there was no boat. You close the book, back away, and then you see the other entries, identical ones, in nearly every other house, different children, different families. But always the same last line, "The boat's here." So maybe they were all waiting. Maybe someone told them the boat was coming. And maybe it did. But no one ever said where it was going. You step outside and look toward the forest that hugs the island's northern edge. Beyond the houses, a narrow path winds into those trees, dark, symmetrical pines that look like they've been copied and pasted. Too uniform, too still. You head toward them anyway. Along the path are signposts, handmade, each with a single word: gather, wait, trust. One has been broken clean in two, the word remember, barely legible on the mossy wood. Deeper in, you come to a clearing. There's a ring of chairs here, wooden, handcrafted, placed in a perfect circle. Some have cushions. One has a child's jacket draped over the back. In the center of the circle, a fire pit. Cold now, but filled with unburned logs. Ready. You spot a journal tucked between two stones at the edge. You hesitate, then pick it up. The first few pages are filled with strange symbols like musical notes, crossed with mathematical symbols. But then comes handwriting you recognize from the nursery. It reads, "We meet here every evening. The signal is close now. Everyone feels it. The children first." And a few lines down. "We'll leave nothing undone. No panics, no mess, just pause." You sit there for a long time, not sure how long. The air in the clearing feels warmer, still, like it's holding its breath. Then, somewhere far off, you hear something mechanical. A click, then another, rhythmic, too evenly spaced to be natural. You follow the sound and emerge into what used to be the town square again. And now, you finally notice the thing you missed before. The clock tower. It's not tall, maybe 20 feet, whitewashed, still standing straight. Its copper bell is green with age. The face of the clock reads 6:47. The second hand ticks, not smoothly, snaps into place every second. And that clicking? It's coming from the inside. You climb the narrow staircase. It groans under your weight. At the top, you find the mechanism. Gears still turning. No power cables, no batteries, just brass, weights, and tension, perfectly intact. On the wall beside it, someone etched a phrase into the wood. "If the clock stops, we're too late." You don't know what it means, but it's been ticking for 90 years, without winding, without maintenance. The mechanism is bone dry, but somehow untouched by time. You glance out the window from the top of the tower. From here, you see the whole village, still, unchanged. And in the center of the square, something new, a suitcase. Brown leather, closed, not dusty, not old. You didn't see it there before. And it's facing your direction like it's waiting for you to come down and open it. You climb down from the clock tower, slow and cautious now. Each step creaks louder than the last, even though you're trying not to make a sound. You reach the square again, and there it is, the suitcase. Still there. Still pointed at you like it knows. You stand over it for a while. The leather is worn, but not decayed. The brass buckles are tarnished, but functional. There's a luggage tag attached. One word in faded black ink. Ours. Not a name, not a destination, just ours. Collective. Unclear. Somehow more unsettling than if it had just said, "Run." You hesitate, then unlatch the buckles. The suitcase pops open, smooth and effortless, like it's been waiting for years, just to show someone what's inside. The contents are odd. At first, it looks like old paperwork, stacks of documents tied with twine, labeled in that same 1930s handwriting. Fishing manifests, ration reports, guest lists for weekly town meetings. Nothing sinister, nothing mysterious, just the humdrum of small town life. But beneath that, buried at the bottom, is something stranger. A photo album. Its leather cover is cracked but sturdy. Inside, dozens of black and white photographs. All of them clearly taken on the island. Most are undated. None have captions, but each one tells a tiny story. A group of children standing in front of the schoolhouse, holding paper boats. A fisherman and his wife caught mid-laugh as they gut a massive cod. A wide shot of the general store, with two men shaking hands in front of a cartload of flour, all ordinary moments, except that every face is turned slightly away from the camera. Every single one. And then you turn to the final page. It's blank. No photo. Just a small pencil sketch, hurried and shaky, like it was drawn by someone watching through a window. It shows a figure standing in the center of the square, alone, surrounded by empty houses. They're holding a suitcase. You close the album. Suddenly, the square feels colder. The mist thickens like a curtain being drawn, soft and immediate. You can barely see the church steeple now, even though it's only a block away. You head toward it anyway. Inside, the air shifts. Not stale, just wrong. Like the space was sealed with emotion, not dust. Candles still sit in the holders, long burned out. Pews lined up neatly. Bibles stacked in pairs along the aisle. The altar holds a vase of dead flowers, faded but upright, like they never fell. And behind the pulpit is a message, written in stained glass. The signal comes not with thunder, but with stillness. You hear a scrape behind you and spin. Just a pew shifting slightly, maybe from old wood settling, maybe from something else. And then, bells. Not loud, not clanging, just a faint chime, like a memory of a bell, rather than the bell itself. You realize the clock tower hasn't rung once since you arrived. So where is it coming from? You follow the sound into a narrow hallway behind the altar. There is a trap door at the far end. You hesitate, then pull it open. A narrow staircase descends into a root cellar or a crypt. It's hard to tell. You descend into the dark, guided only by the flashlight on your phone, which now flickers between 10% battery and 89%. The number changes every few seconds. You don't know which to believe. The room at the bottom is circular, lined with shelves. On the shelves, dozens of identical mason jars, each filled with thick, murky water. And floating inside each, no, that can't be right. Eyes. You step closer. The eyes aren't real. They're drawn painted onto small glass marbles, one per jar, each perfectly replicated with unnerving precision. Irises, veins, pupils, some wide open, some narrowed like they're watching something or someone. At the center of the room, a wooden crate, open. Inside, there's a typewritten letter, folded neatly on top of a cloth bundle. You read, "To whoever finds this, we weren't taken, we chose. We saw it coming. The message was never for the world. It was for us. You'll hear it too. Maybe you already have." Beneath the letter, a child's sweater. Stitched into the collar, the name, Ivy. It matches one of the baby book entries you saw earlier. You leave the cellar quickly, the air too dense now, too crowded with something you can't see. As you emerge from the church, you blink hard. The fog is thicker, darker, like dusk arrived all at once. Your watch says it's just after 3 p.m., but the sky says otherwise. Across the square, you notice something new again. Lights. 2 homes now glow from the inside, dim orange through old curtains. One of them, the red door house, has smoke rising from its chimney. But you were just inside that house, and it was cold. You step forward. The square seems longer now, like distance has stretched. Your feet crunch on gravel that wasn't there before. A dog barks faintly in the distance. You stop. A dog? You hadn't seen any animals since arriving, and then you hear it again, closer. But no barking this time, just a low, wet growl. You don't run. Not yet, but your pace quickens as you move toward the glowing house. Whatever this island is doing, it's getting bolder. It isn't hiding anymore, and neither are they. You reach the red door house again, heart pounding in rhythm with your boots against the worn stone path. The chimney is still puffing soft, steady curls of smoke that fade too quickly into the fog. You hesitate at the threshold. There's no noise inside, no shadows passing behind the curtains, just that gentle orange flicker of firelight. The door creaks open before you touch it. This time, the interior feels lived in. The tea on the table is steaming. The jigsaw puzzle is finished. There's a sweater draped over the back of the dining chair. And the butter dish? Empty. You're too late. Or too early. Or somehow both. A fire crackles in the hearth. The warmth spills across the room like it's reaching for you. You edge toward it, every nerve alight, and spot a handwritten letter on the mantel, addressed in looping cursive to the late guest. You unfold it slowly, careful not to tear the delicate yellowing paper. We knew one of you would come. We left this for you. If it's glowing again, that means the signal has returned. You mustn't stay too long. It doesn't like to be seen. Leave what you found. Take nothing back. No name, no signature, just a date. July 17, 1934. You glance at the fireplace again. Sitting in the ashpan beneath the flames are several charred photographs. You can just make out the silhouettes of people standing in front of this house. One looks like you. You back away, breath catching. A groan from above sends you spinning around. Floorboards creaking, slow and deliberate. Someone, or something, is upstairs. The stairs are narrow, old, and dark. You're not going up there. Not this time. Instead, you rush back outside and stop dead. The entire street is glowing now. House after house, faintly lit from within, as if life has returned, or never left. And in the windows, shapes. People. You swear you see them. Shadows shifting behind curtains. Silhouettes brushing past frosted glass. One house even has a radio playing, muffled and full of static. But there's a woman's voice underneath it, humming a lullaby you think you've never heard before, and yet, somehow, you have. The melody winds around your ribs like a memory half remembered from a dream you were never supposed to wake from. You step into the street. The square feels like a stage now. And you? The lone actor who missed rehearsal. Out of the corner of your eye, a figure, standing by the fountain. It's an old man. Long coat, newsboy cap. He's holding something, a cane, a radio. You move to call out, but the words die in your throat, because he's gone. Not vanished, not fled, just cut from the scene. Like film snipped mid-frame. You check your watch, 3:13 p.m. But didn't it just say that 10 minutes ago? You walk faster now. Past the bakery again, its door slightly ajar. The smell of fresh bread floods the air, but there's no movement inside. Past the schoolhouse. The chalkboard now reads, "We're rehearsing the silence. Come back when it's your line." And there's laughter, small, giggling, disembodied from inside. You don't look. Instead, you make your way to the town's records office, hoping for something concrete. Something that might explain why everything here still stands, untouched, like a museum, curated by ghosts. The office is unlocked. It smells like dust and paper and linseed oil. Inside are rows of filing cabinets, their drawers neatly labeled. You find one marked Census 1934. Inside, a stack of forms, each with the same surname crossed out, each with a signature at the bottom, but none of them match. Some are childlike scrawls, some are elaborate, looping cursive. But one detail unites them all. Occupation. Listener. You open another drawer. Incident reports. Only one folder inside. The file contains a single sheet of paper, typed. July 16, 1934, final entry event code. Silence. All preparations complete. Community has complied. Departure scheduled. Non-compliance. 0. You don't know what to make of that. Departure to where? And what is event code? Silence. No one on the mainland remembers this happening. There were no headlines. No missing persons cases filed for the dozens, maybe hundreds of people who lived here. Historians still argue whether this was a bureaucratic cover-up, a spiritual mass exodus, or a collective psychological event. Theories abound. But the truth? Buried under years of dismissive shrugs and outdated maps. And it gets stranger. In the corner of the room, stacked neatly on a table, are sealed envelopes, each addressed the same way. To any future arrivals, please read before leaving. You pick one up and break the wax seal. Inside, another typed note. You've seen enough now to decide. The island does not trap. It waits. The path you choose will hold. If you feel called to stay, walk toward the woods. If you wish to forget, head back to the dock. But know this, not all who forget stay gone. You pocket the note without meaning to, and that's when you realize your phone is buzzing. You yank it from your pocket. The screen lights up. 17 missed call. Unknown. Then it flashes again. Another missed call. And another. They pile up. Dozens. Each at 17. 17. Every day for the past week. But you've only been here hours? The clock on the wall ticks loudly now. Rhythmic. Pressing. Beckoning. You rush outside. The sky is darker still. Twilight crawling in like oil spreading across linen. The buildings hum with low energy, like machines warming up for something. And in the distance, the church bell rings. Once, then silence, then again, and you finally understand something is coming. Not with thunder, but with stillness. You run. Not full speed, your legs don't quite listen anymore, but fast enough to move past the pulsing tension building in the air. Past the homes with flickering lights, past the child's bicycle that now has a fresh smear of mud across its seat. Past a puddle that wasn't there before, reflecting not your face, but someone else's. You don't stop until you reach the edge of town again. Back near the bluff, the water below is still there, gray, undisturbed, almost painted on. You try to spot the mainland, but all you get is fog. Thick, endless fog that almost looks solid. And just then, another impossibility. A small boat, gently bobbing offshore. It wasn't there before. It's unmanned. A rowboat, maybe 8 feet long, weathered but intact. A single lantern glows faintly at its bow, unlit yet casting light somehow. Inside, nothing but a folded wool blanket and a glass bottle. You stare, hard, then turn back toward the path. You've had enough quiet for one day. But just before you step away, you see something else. Footprints, leading to the boat. Small ones, barefoot, faint impressions in the muddy grass, leading from the trees behind you, down the bluff, and stopping right at the boat's edge. But here's the thing, there's no return trail. Whoever walked to that boat either got in and left, or never got out. You move away fast, back toward the heart of the village, where at least the illusion of safety still lingers. And that's when you remember the mail. You hadn't noticed the post office before, how strange is that? But it's there now. A squat, red brick building near the square. Its shutters are drawn, its sign faded but legible. Greywick Post, Telegraph. Inside, the air is heavy, warmer than outside, thick with the scent of old ink and damp glue. The walls are lined with brass mail slots, each labeled with a name. Most are ajar. You peer into one and find a bundle of letters still waiting. No dust, no mold, just perfectly preserved envelopes. And they're recent, not 1,934 recent. Recent. The dates are typed. 1,979, 1,986, 2004, 2019. Everyone addressed to someone no longer alive. Everyone stamped, postmarked, and shelved. So, who delivered them? And then something even more bizarre. A letter addressed to you. You blink, your full name, typed neatly, centered. Your hands shake as you open it. The paper is stiff, clean, not aged. The ink, black and crisp. You are always going to come. Some places choose their witness. You are not the first. If you read this, it means you're part of the return loop. No signature. Just that same chilling date, July 17. You fold it, too stunned to speak. You want to leave. You need to leave. But the dock is empty. The boat is gone. You've checked. So now what? You turn back toward the sorting room behind the mail counter. A heavy ledger sits on the desk. You flip it open to a page titled, Unclaimed Mail. Addressees unknown. And the entries. They stretch back decades. Dozens of names, all crossed out in red pencil. All but one. Dr. Thomas Bellamy, St. John's University, Depth of History. You scribble the name in your notes, just for the sake of sanity. Maybe when, if you get back, he'll have answers, if he's still around. The bell above the post office door jingles. You freeze. You didn't touch the door. A gust of air brushes past your cheek, like someone just walked in right beside you. You turn. No one there. But one of the mailboxes, number 17, clicks open all on its own. Inside is a cassette tape. You take it with numb fingers. No label, just black plastic, with the faint sound of the tape whirring inside. You haven't seen one of these in years. You need to find something that plays it. Back outside, you stumble across the general store again. You hadn't really explored it earlier. The windows are dusty, but clear enough to see inside. There's a cassette player on the front counter. You force the door open. A tiny bell above it rings dully. The store smells like dry flour, licorice, and machine oil. You walk straight to the player, pop in the tape, and press play. At first, it's just static. Then a voice, female, calm, soft. If you are hearing this, it's already begun again. The breach point returns every cycle. We did not vanish, we withdrew. You may still have time to decide. Then, softly, under her voice, music. A slow waltz. Old, warbly, like something from a parlor room in 1910. A lullaby tempo, played on detuned piano. The voice continues. We left because we were called. Not by fear, not by threat, by invitation. You were invited too. The envelope proves it. You look down at the letter still clutched in your hand. That name, your name staring back up at you. The tape ends with one last sound. Knocking. 3 slow knocks. You look up. Someone standing in the doorway. A silhouette. Just watching. And you're not sure they're breathing. You don't move. Neither do they. The silhouette stays frozen in the doorway, framed by the grimy glass and the thickening dusk outside. No details, just the outline of a person. Not tall, not hunched, just there. Watching. The cassette tape clicks softly in the player. That's it. No more music, no rewind, no eject. You reach out slowly and stop it, your hand trembling just enough to make the buttons rattle. When you glance back at the doorway, they're gone. No footfalls, no bell, no sound, just absence, like someone gently erased them. You step outside, but the street is empty. A wind picks up, stirring grit across the cobblestones. The temperature has dropped. That sticky summer weight is gone, replaced by a sharp autumnal chill. And the sky? Not sunset anymore, just deep, blank gray. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell tolls. 3 times. That's when you notice the store's clock. It reads 3:0, not 3:0 p.m. The hands have stopped in perfect stillness. But you're sure, absolutely sure, you only entered the post office just after noon. Something's wrong with time here. Not just slow, not just stuck. Wrong. You drift back toward the village square, scanning every corner, every porch, every window. Some of the curtains are open now. You see faces, but only for a second. They vanish the moment you look. No motion, no retreating shapes, just the eerie sense that people are watching, but don't want to be seen. You try one of the houses, just to prove to yourself that you're not dreaming. It's unlocked. Inside, everything is intact. Chairs, dishes, a half-knitted scarf on the arm of a rocker. A photo on the mantelpiece shows a couple smiling stiffly in front of a snow-covered cottage. It's labeled, Christmas 1933. Their eyes follow you. Or maybe that's just your nerves again. The fridge hums faintly. The light switches work. But the calendar on the wall hasn't been touched. July 1934. Every page after that is pristine. Untouched. Like no one ever had a reason to flip further. You open a kitchen drawer and find a booklet titled Greywick Island, Emergency Measures, for authorized residents only. You flip through. There are evacuation procedures. In case of breach. In case of lights. In case of return. But none explain what those mean. The back page is torn out. And then, scrawled in pencil on the inside cover, you find something else. The island chooses who stays. You leave the house without looking back. Out on the street, the air feels denser, heavier, like each breath is being filtered through something unseen. You cough, and that's when you notice the tree. The one at the center of the square. You're sure it was green before. Now, it's blossoming, but not with flowers. with paper, hundreds of strips of it, tangled in the branches like some kind of ritual. You walk up close and see that they're pages, torn from journals, books, diaries, typewritten fragments, and handwritten scrawls. One flutters loose and catches your arm. It reads, Day 42. We see them at the edges now. They don't blink. They don't speak. They wait. Another says, the bell tower rang before she disappeared. No one remembers her name. And yet another, time doesn't loop. It chooses. That's different. You step back, chilled to the core. Just then, another tolling sound. Not the bell this time. A low, metallic clank from beneath your feet. You crouch down and find a maintenance hatch nearly hidden under the overgrown grass near the square's edge. The padlock is broken. Inside, darkness and a narrow metal staircase spiraling down, and the smell, earth, salt water, and copper. You descend. The steps creak with each shift of your weight. There's no light, until halfway down you spot a lantern hanging on a hook, battery-powered. You flick it on, and the tunnel glows dim yellow. It's not natural, it's carved. Old stone walls, reinforced with rusted rebar. Someone built this a long time ago. Every few meters, there are chalk symbols drawn onto the rock. Circles, runes, equations, some in Latin, some in a language you don't recognize. And then the tunnel splits. One direction heads toward the shoreline. The other, deeper inland, under the village. You take the second. There's a plaque mounted to the wall at the split, covered in grime. You wipe it off with your sleeve and reveal the words, authorized rentry permitted on anniversary only. Anniversary? Of what? You keep walking, and the air changes again. Warmer, buzzing faintly with electricity. You round a bend and come face to face with an old steel door. You press your ear to it. Something on the other side is breathing. Slow, measured, not quite human. You should run. You know that. Instead, you knock. 3 times. Silence. Then, very faintly, a knock in return. And you laugh. You don't mean to. It just bubbles up. Half from fear, half from sheer absurdity. You're knocking on doors in secret tunnels beneath a time-locked village, and something's politely knocking back. Welcome to Greywick. You leave the door untouched and retreat, finding a ladder that leads back to the surface. You emerge behind the old schoolhouse, tucked near the tree line. The air is cooler now. The clouds have cleared, revealing a full moon that shouldn't be rising yet. And someone has lit a fire in the schoolyard. A bonfire. Around it, chairs. 6 of them, all empty, except one. There's a girl sitting in it, barefoot, wearing a navy blue school uniform from another century. She doesn't look up, but she says, "You're not supposed to be here yet." You take a step closer, your heart thudding. What is this place? She tilts her head. You should ask the others. What others? She looks up, finally, and her eyes are wrong. Too many reflections in them, like a mirror fracturing light, and just as you're about to ask more, she vanishes. The chair creaks for a moment longer, then goes still. No ashes in the fire, no smell of smoke, just that eerie wind again, and the certainty that something is watching from the woods behind you, something that knows your name. You don't go back to the woods, not yet. There's something about the way the shadows stretch there too long, too thin, like they've learned how to lie. So instead, you circle the schoolhouse. Boards creak beneath your feet. Worn soft by rain and years of silence, you peek through the windows. Classroom desks frozen in perfect order. Each seat has a name card, hand-lettered in ink. You spot one that reads, Elspeth A. Another says, Miles R. There's a dusty workbook open on a front row desk, its last page unfinished. A math problem waits patiently for an answer no one ever gave. And then you hear it. That laugh again. But this time, it's layered. Not one voice, not 2. A whole room full of giggling children, some high-pitched, some cracked, and too low for their size. The sound comes from inside the school. You press your ear to the door. Wood vibrates faintly against your skin. You don't go in. Instead, You walk around to the side, where a rusted jungle gym still clings to the earth. Moss grows over the metal. A skipping rope lies abandoned in the grass. You pick it up, why? You don't know. Maybe out of nostalgia, maybe out of dread. Tied to one end is a tag. She never skipped alone. You drop it. Somewhere behind you, a door slams. You spin around, but the building is still, unbothered. And now the clouds have moved again, revealing a patch of sky glittering with stars. Too many. More than you've ever seen from the mainland. And they're wrong. Constellations you don't recognize. Stars that blink in patterns, not twinkles. You feel like you're being watched from above. That's when the bell tolls again. Just once. But not from the church this time. From deeper in the island, closer to the lighthouse you saw earlier from the ferry. You decide to follow the sound. The main path is cracked and overgrown. Ferns burst through gaps in the stones. Blackberry vines cling to rusting fences. The island's vegetation doesn't feel wild, it feels aggressive, like it's trying to reclaim something. Halfway down the path, you stumble over a plaque half buried in the moss. You kneel to read it. To those who remained, may the light always find you. It's dated August 3rd, 1934. You do the math without thinking. That's today's date. Exactly 91 years ago, and that's when you understand what the anniversary meant. Authorized re-entry. Once per year. You wonder who's being allowed in, or worse, who's being let out. The lighthouse is tall, skeletal, a structure made of iron bones and salt-rusted joints. Its base is surrounded by a picket fence, barely upright. A sign warns, keepers only beyond this point. Trespass is not forgettable. You consider turning back, but you don't. You open the gate. It doesn't squeal, it shudders, like something else is pushing from the other side, trying to keep you out, or in. The lighthouse door is open. Inside, a circular stairway leading up, and a trapdoor set into the floor leading down. You shine your flashlight down first. Just darkness, but the air smells wrong, metallic, charred, and then faint music, like a music box, playing underwater. You don't go down. Not yet. You climb. Each step groans under your weight. The walls are lined with names, scratched by hand into the iron. Some are full names, others are just initials. But you notice something. All of them are dated August 3rd. You reach the top. The glass of the lantern room is cracked, coated in grime. You wipe a panel clean. Outside, you can see the whole island, the forest, the shore, the village, all still. But now, tiny lights glow in the trees. Lanterns? Campfires? No. Eyes. Pairs of them. Dozens. They blink one by one, and then vanish into the dark. Then, behind you, the trapdoor below swings open. You didn't touch it. Something came through. You rush back down the stairs, but see nothing. Only the faint sway of the door, still moving from its own momentum. You shine your flashlight into the opening and freeze. There's a mirror, not your reflection, but someone else's. A man in an old-fashioned lighthouse keeper uniform. He's staring back at you, mouth open, eyes wide, screaming, but there's no sound. And just like that, he's gone. Only the mirror remains, cracked diagonally. You approach it, etched along the frame, in tiny block letters, "Do not forget who you were before." You back away, heart pounding. That's when the floorboards creak. Footsteps, soft, measured, coming up from the trap door. You run, out the door, down the path, back toward the village. But now the path is different. You swear you didn't pass that statue before, or that row of birdhouses, each filled with tiny carved faces instead of birds. The whole landscape feels rearranged like the island shifts when you're not watching. You reach the square again. Only now, the tree in the center? All the paper is gone, stripped bare, except one page. Fluttering, you grab it. It says, "You asked the wrong question. It's not why time stopped, it's why you kept moving." And scribbled below that, barely legible, "Not all who arrive were meant to." You hear movement. You're not alone in the square. A figure steps forward finally. Same height as you, same build, even wearing what looks like your jacket. The figure raises a hand. You do too reflexively. They mirror you. Exactly. And then they speak in your voice. Now you know. You run again. Not toward the ferry, it's gone. Not into the forest, you remember the eyes. You run toward the church. Not because it feels safe, but because it's the only place you haven't looked. The door is already open. Inside, the pews are lined with mannequins. You think they're mannequins? Until one turns its head and smiles. There's a choir at the altar, but no mouths are moving. Just the sound of humming. Beautiful, terrible. A harmony no human throat could make. And standing in front of them, the girl from the fire, now dressed in white. She says, "You asked what this place is. It's not a where, it's a when." She steps forward and touches your hand. Cold. And that's when the bell tolls, louder than ever before. The mannequins all stand. You shut your eyes, and everything goes dark. You wake up lying on something soft. Not a bed, not earth. Moss thick, springy, and warm. It smells like cedar and salt. Overhead, the sky is gray again. The kind of gray that eats the sun entirely. A gentle wind rustles through distant trees, but closer to you, there's silence. You sit up. You're in the church, or what's left of it. The roof's half collapsed, the stained glass windows blown out, shards still catching the occasional glint of light. Pews are rotted and overturned. The altar has toppled sideways. There are no mannequins, no girl in white, just you, a ruined room, and a piece of paper resting on your chest. You unfold it carefully. Same handwriting. 9 hours left. That's it. You glance around for your bag, your phone, your flashlight, anything. Gone. The church's arch doors hang open. The outside path looks clearer somehow, less choked with overgrowth, less hostile. As if the island is giving you this window and escape hatch. But escape to where? Because the ferry's not coming back. You know that now. You head out of the church, following the same route you ran last night. The village square looks abandoned again. No figures, no lights, no fluttering pages. The trees bare and quiet. But the air feels charged like a thunderstorm's coming but hasn't made up its mind. You walk west, toward the cliffs. You remember seeing them briefly from the lighthouse. Now they're your only vantage point. From up here, you can see the outline of the entire island. A perfect oval. Forest. Shoreline. The lighthouse like a toothpick on one end. You take a breath and then you see it. A second island. Smaller. Maybe 2 kilometers off the coast. It's not on any map you've seen. Even the local brochures in the museum made no mention. But it's real. You can see movement on it. Like firelight or signal flares. And most strange of all, it looks like it has buildings. Modern ones. Glass, steel, lights blinking red and green like airplane beacons. You scan the coast for boats. Nothing. But there's a narrow causeway connecting the 2 islands. You wouldn't have seen it earlier. It's submerged at high tide. But right now, barely exposed. Slick with seaweed, but walkable. You check the paper again. 9 hours. You head down to the shore. The path cuts through the forest again. Less tangled this time. Fewer illusions if that's what they were. You pass the schoolhouse. Its windows dark. You pass the graveyard. Still silent. Still too orderly. You reach the water. The causeway gleams in the gray light. A snaking thread of barnacled stone. You hesitate. It looks fragile. Slippery. But it's solid under your feet. And you move slowly. Arms out for balance. Halfway across, you feel it again. The sensation of being watched. But not from behind. Not from the island. From below. You don't look. Because you remember now something in the museum display. A story too absurd to take seriously, tucked beneath the taxidermy and dusty dioramas. A local legend about the listeners below. Sea creatures that weren't fish or mammal, but something older, something with memory. The causeway dips slightly. Saltwater laps at your ankles. You walk faster. Then a shape moves beneath the surface. Long, smooth, just a flicker. You don't stop. And when you finally step off the stone path onto the second island, you don't look back. Not at the water, not at the causeway, not at the shadows under the tide. The new island is dead, quiet, but not abandoned. Cables run across the ground, thick and insulated. Metal pylons rise in the distance. Security lights sit on poles, though none are lit. A concrete bunker is built into the hillside ahead, its blast doors rusted but ajar. There's a number stenciled above it, 1934, C. The air smells sterile here. You enter. Inside, the hallways are narrow, industrial, lined with peeling paint and light fixtures that haven't flickered in decades. But the strange part? It's not what you see, it's what you don't. No dust, no cobwebs. It's as if someone cleaned this place recently. Down one hall, you find a room labeled Observation. The glass is cracked, but mostly intact. Inside, rows of monitors. Analog, cathode, ray screens, powered off, but still faintly warm to the touch. Each one has a label beneath it. Schoolhouse Church. Musum Dock. Lighthouse. You run your finger over them, and then on the wall, a giant paper map. The main island, but annotated. Circles and arrows, dates scrawled in red. You see August 3rd repeated over and over, but some of the notes mention incursions on different days. November, June, even February. Historians still argue whether this bunker was military, scientific, or something much stranger. Official records are either blacked out or missing entirely. What little's been declassified was redacted to the point of absurdity. Phrases like subject demonstrated temporal persistence and containment integrity failure, localized time, reversal. You find a metal drawer labeled personal. Inside are photos, ID badges, dozens of them. Everyone dated 1934. Everyone with your face, different names, different jobs. Sameais. You hear a noise behind you, like an old film projector spinning up. The monitors come to life, flickering, static, then footage, real-time footage. You see yourself inside the observation room, from a camera in the hallway, and then another version of you walking toward the church, and another climbing the lighthouse. You watch them move, unaware of each other, all of them wearing the same jacket, same expression, and you realize you're not the first you to come here, not even the 10th. The footage changes. Now it shows the schoolhouse, children, sitting quietly, then vanishing, one by one, not walking out, not teleporting, just fading, as if they were never there. And the final frame? The lighthouse. A mirror, cracked, alone. You back away from the monitors. There's a noise down the hallway. Footsteps. You turn off your flashlight, but the lights in the bunker flicker on emergency reds, and painted across the wall in front of you, revealed in the glow. You came to remember. Don't forget again. You turn slowly, but the hallway is empty. Only that humming red glow now emanating from strip lights along the ceiling, like something meant for evacuations or drills. You half expect a klaxon to sound, but no alarm comes, just the soft hiss of electricity. You're standing still, frozen, because what you just saw in that observation room isn't processing like it should. Not really. Your brain is trying to shove it into categories. It understands Hall of Mirrors, surveillance, trickery, a prank somehow, but none of it fits. There were copies of you, acting independently, caught on camera, walking paths you've walked, exploring corners you haven't yet. One of them even had your chipped fingernail, same as now. This isn't déjà vu. This is repetition. You don't know how many times you've come to this island, how many cycles, but the implication is terrifying and weirdly mundane, like getting stuck on a broken escalator that just loops you back to the bottom every time you almost reach the top. You hear a scrape behind you again. This time you do spin fast. Something moves just around the corner. Bare feet, not yours. You creep forward, peering past the steel doorframe. It's another hallway. Sam sterile til. Same red glow. But this one ends in a glass door, and behind it, an old elevator. Rusted and still. A panel on the wall beside the door reads, Access Tier. Level 4. Personal only. Underneath, there's a slot for an ID card. You reach into your pocket on instinct, and weirdly, you do find something there. It's not your phone, it's an old laminated badge, yellowed with age, cracked, your name on it, but not your name. Dr. Reed Kaminsky, Systems Integrity, Tier 4. You stare at the photo. You. Same eyes, same smirk you've seen in photos you never posed for. You slide the card into the panel. Click. The door unlatches with a tired hiss. The elevator groans awake like something deeply annoyed to be doing its job. A green light blinks above the door. You step inside, even though your instincts scream to turn back. But what would you be turning back to? A looping island? A hall of versions? At least this is something new. The elevator descends slower than it should. You watch the wall scroll by through the tiny glass window. Concrete, conduit, carved stone, deeper and deeper. After about a minute, it stops with a shudder. The doors open. You step out into something impossible. A room vast and perfectly circular, like the inside of a concrete dome. Machinery clings to the walls in concentric circles, blinking and clicking in soft rhythms. Wires snake like vines. Old screens, tape reels, and punch cards sit beside digital terminals, far too advanced for 1934. It's like someone pressed together 70 years of technology and asked them to get along. At the very center of the room is a platform, floating, not touching the floor. It pulses with faint blue light, humming softly like a heartbeat in reverse. A sign nearby reads, Chronostasis Core, do not disturb while active. There's a terminal next to it. Its screen glows to life as you approach, displaying a single line. Welcome back, Dr. Kaminsky. And underneath, resume cycle? Yes. No. You don't touch anything. You back away from the terminal and circle the platform slowly, because something else is here, tucked behind a pillar. A body, slumped in a lab coat, skeletonized, but not completely. The decay is inconsistent, like it got halfway there and then stopped. You look closer. A badge still clipped to the coat. Reed Kaminsky. Again, same name, same photo. And the hands? They're holding something. A mirror. Round. Compact. Like the kind you'd find in someone's purse. You look into it. For a split second, the face you see isn't your own. It flickers between expressions neutral, grinning, screaming, blank. You drop it. It doesn't shatter. You turn to leave, but the elevator is gone. Not just closed. Gone. The shaft is sealed over, like it never existed. You're trapped in this dome, alone. Then a voice speaks. Not from the terminal, not from a speaker, from everywhere. You ask to remember. This is memory. You spin, searching for a source. The lights dim slightly, as if to punctuate the sentence. The platform begins to spin slowly, like a record player on its lowest setting, and in the walls, lights flicker into motion. Projectors. And suddenly, you see the village, projected across the circular wall, like a 360-degree panorama. The houses, the schoolhouse, the lighthouse, but not abandoned. It's full, alive, children laughing, church bells ringing, people walking the pier. 1934. You see yourself again, a version of you, striding confidently into frame. You walk into the museum, shake hands with a man in a bowler hat, laugh at something he says. The voice returns. They asked you to fix time. You broke it instead. The projection shifts, smoke, screams, the village collapsing into itself. You running from building to building, flipping switches, failing, over and over, the same day, again and again. Chronostasis requires memory to function, the voice says, almost sadly. You refused memory, so we installed reminders. The mannequins, the recordings, the repeating paper notes. You didn't forget, you deleted. There's a sound behind you. Another elevator door, opening, but this one's different. The shaft beyond is glowing gold, warm, inviting. The voice speaks one final time. One exit remains, but the cost is all of it. No return, no repetition, no memory. You walk toward the door slowly. Your hand hesitates on the frame. And in that moment, you ask yourself the oldest question. Do you want to leave, if it means forgetting again? You step back, not forward, because something in you, some small whispering instinct says that forgetting isn't freedom. It's just another loop. You turn away from the golden glow of the elevator and face the dome once more. The projections have faded. The chronostasis core spins quietly, still pulsing like a sleeping giant's heartbeat. That flickering machine in the center, it's not just holding time, it's bleeding it. You feel that now. Every moment in this place doesn't pass. It stacks. And you're standing at the top of the pile. Your eye catches the corpse again. Dr. Kaminsky, who may or may not be you, still frozen mid-scream, half decomposed, half preserved. But this time, you notice something new. There's a journal under his arm. You tug it free gently. The cover flakes a bit. Inside, the pages are filled with scrawl equations, maps of time loops, notes with lines through them, and drawings. One page makes your breath catch. A rough sketch of the village, and, drawn inside it, a spiral. Not metaphorical, geographical. A pattern of roads and homes that curve endlessly inward. The caption reads, "They never left, they only moved deeper." Then another line, more frantic, "Stop rebuilding the core. Stop forgetting. You. Stop. You." Below that, if you're reading this, you've survived 47 cycles. And then, scratched so deep it tore the page, "Make a new choice." You slam the journal shut. The elevator's still glowing, but now, you're aware of a second possibility. The core. There's a console beside it, dusty but functional. A blinking cursor waits, as if asking a question only you can answer. You hesitate, then move toward it. The screen updates. Do you wish to terminate the cycle? Yes. No. A soft thrum passes through your feet. The room seems to react, lights dimming just slightly, core spinning slower. And something else happens. A hatch opens in the floor. You peer in. A ladder leads down, just barely lit, its rungs metal and worn. You descend without really deciding to. It just feels right. Or maybe inevitable. The air gets colder. You reach a smaller chamber, round like the one above but lined with tanks. Cryogenic chambers. 6 of them. Each one labeled with a name. One of them says, "Reed Kaminsky, Org." Inside, empty. The rest are occupied, each with a body. Each, you. Variations. Different haircuts. Different injuries. But unmistakably, you. 5 cycles. And the 6th? Still yours. Still full. Breathing. Eyes closed. Asleep. You stumble backward, because that's not a clone. That's you. The original, maybe. Or one of the early attempts. Or the current you. Dreaming this entire journey from inside a freezer tube. That would explain the weird jumps. The repeating moments. The not quite consistent handwriting. The strange gut memories that don't belong to any version of you can consciously recall. One of the tanks lets out a sharp hiss. The 5th one. You watch as the condensation on the inside of the glass begins to melt. The body inside twitches, wakes up, and looks at you. And for the first time tonight, you scream. You scramble back up the ladder, heart hammering, breath short. You slam the hatch shut and hit a nearby override switch you didn't notice before. It locks with a mechanical thunk, but you hear the hiss continue beneath your feet, and a voice, your voice muttering, then shouting from below. The time for decisions is over. You move back to the console. Your fingers hover over the screen. Yes. No, your hands shake. Because the truth is, this has probably happened before. This moment, this hesitation. Maybe you always choose no. Maybe that's why you always end up back on the island, watching a lighthouse blink from a frozen sky. But not this time. Your hand moves. You press yes. Everything stops. The platform freezes mid-spin. The core dims to black. The lights go out. And for 1 second, silence. Then, a rush of wind. Sound comes roaring back all at once. Wind howling, alarms screaming, metal groaning. The dome begins to collapse. Not in a destructive way, more like it's folding in on itself. The core implodes silently. The cryochambers melt into light. The walls recede, like a vanishing horizon. You fall backward. But the floor is gone. You're weightless, floating. You close your eyes. And then just as quickly, there's ground beneath your feet. You're standing in the village. The sun is rising. For real. This time. No eerie glow. No flicker. No blur at the edges. You take a breath, and it tastes like morning. Fresh air, sea salt, pine needles. A child's voice calls somewhere in the distance. You turn. People are emerging from houses, yawning, stretching, holding mugs of coffee. They don't look surprised to see you. In fact, someone waves. "Morning, Dr. Kaminsky," they shout. You wave back, but slowly, because something's missing. You can't remember their name, or your own. Not clearly, not anymore. You glance toward the sea. The lighthouse blinks red in the early dawn. Just once, then stops. The beam has gone out. You smile, because maybe it worked. You broke the loop. But the price was memory. You know just enough to feel the relief, and just little enough to start over. Clean. You settle into the rhythm of it. Morning comes, and the village hums gently to life. You're standing outside a modest house near the square, a place that, apparently, is yours. The mailbox says, R. Kaminsky. Inside, the furniture is plain but comfortable. A jacket you don't remember owning hangs by the door. A picture of someone who might have been your mother smiles down from the mantel, her features vague but warm. People greet you like an old friend. The grocer saves your usual. The cafe knows how you take your coffee. A wiry man named Giles insists you owe him a rematch at Domino's. And you play along. You nod, smile, ask small questions and pretend you remember the answers. Your house, your village, your life. But at night, when the sun slips behind the ridge, you feel it, the crackle beneath the surface. You lie in bed, listening. There's no ticking, no gears turning, no core humming below the earth. But there's something else, a pressure in your chest, a memory that's not a memory. It's more like a feeling like déjà vu wearing a heavy coat. You sit up and stare out the window, watching the distant outline of the cliffs. The lighthouse is gone, completely. No ruin, no stump, just smooth rock and trees, and yet you remember it's blinking. You swear you can still hear the horn. You find yourself wandering again. You walk the curved streets and realize the village spiral still exists. The layout hasn't changed. The structures haven't shifted. Only the awareness has. No one talks about the past. Not really. Not before the thaw, which is what they call it here. The thaw. I was barely 5 when the thaw happened, the bartender says one evening. My father swore we'd been stuck for decades. But what's a decade to a kid? You ask him what year it is. He chuckles. 2025, of course. Not 1,934? You ask, half joking. His smile falters. Depends who you ask, he mutters. Later that night, you write the question on a slip of paper and place it under your pillow. In the morning, it's gone. You start noticing other odd things, like how the dogs in the village bark at the same time every day right as the sun hits the tower clock, how the bakery's fresh loaves always look exactly the same, how your neighbor Lucille wears the same red shawl every Thursday but insists it's a different one each week, and how every mirror in your house is slightly too clean, like it's been replaced. You begin testing things. You scribble notes and hide them. You rearrange chairs. You switch your shoes from the front door to the kitchen. And every morning, it's back the way it was. Someone or something is resetting the stage, just more subtly now. Not a frozen loop, but a softened one. A time sponge, not a loop, soaking up inconsistencies and smoothing them over. You visit the old schoolhouse, now converted into a library. You find a shelf labeled Local History, but every book starts the same way, after the thaw. No one mentions what came before. No one even hints at the name Kaminsky, except as a friendly local doctor who's always been around. You stumble across a worn-out filing cabinet in the basement. Inside, blueprints for the core. but hand-drawn, incomplete, and burned at the edges. Someone tried to destroy them, probably you. There's also a photograph paperclipped to the file. Blurry, faded, but unmistakable, a dome, and a body slumped beside it. Your stomach knots. You turn it over. Written in smudged pencil, "If I wake again, tell me to stay asleep." You return home in a daze. Sit on your porch, watch the villagers, chat and laugh, and drink cider. And you wonder, what if this is the real trap? Not the time freeze, but the illusion of freedom. What if the loop wasn't broken, but simply evolved? Historians still argue whether consciousness can adapt to paradoxes, whether the human brain, when faced with incompatible memories, just rewrites the gaps and carries on dreamwalking in a reality too strange to reject. You don't know if that's happening to you, but you suspect, yes, because tonight, as you step inside and flick the lights on, you catch something in the mirror, just for a second, not your reflection. Another face, your face, but twisted in fear, mouth open mid-scream, gone the moment you blink. You sleep with the light on that night, and dream of gears. You wake up with a headache that doesn't feel like yours, the kind that wraps around the base of your skull and pulses like an echo of someone else's thoughts. You shuffle into the bathroom, splash your face, and glance at the mirror, half expecting to see that terrified version of you staring back. But no, it's just you. Tired maybe, but ordinary. Still wearing the same borrowed clothes from the town's little general store. Still blinking under the same soft golden light filtering through the window. You've been here for weeks now, maybe longer. And yet, time feels sloshy, soft, like a sponge soaked with other people's memories. You're not the only one who's noticed. There was a woman yesterday, tourist or maybe researcher. She arrived on the supply boat that docks once a month. Her name was Lene Foster, and she wore that graduate student uniform. Puffer jacket, heavy boots, slightly panicked eyes. Said she was working on a paper about historical memory and vanishing settlements. You'd think someone in academia would have already torn this place apart with theories. But no, almost nothing is published. The island is barely a footnote in textbooks. And even then, the name changes. You've seen it called Beatrice Rock, Hammond's Hollow, even Geospatial Test Sector 12. It doesn't stick. Nothing does. Lene asked around, got shrugs and vague smiles. The thaw was good for us, someone told her. We don't dig into the past. It doesn't like that. She laughed at the time. Now she's missing. She went to sleep in the little inn across from the bakery. Asked for room 4. The next morning, the innkeeper swore they'd never heard of her. Said room 4 was locked for repairs. You asked around town, no one remembers her being here. But you do, because she left her notebook with you. It's filled with frantic notes, like they were written while the ink was still drying. Time here is layered, like a palimpsest. You peel one day off and find another stuck underneath. Kaminsky theory holds, but maybe incomplete. Time loop wasn't accident. Was the freeze containment or test? The rest is nearly illegible. Scribbles, arrows, diagrams of loops and waveforms. One page has only 4 words, written over and over until the pen broke through the paper. We never left. We never left. You try to forget about it. You return the notebook to your sock drawer and try to lose yourself in routine. The town's rhythms are calming, in their own eerie way. Meals at predictable times, work at the garden co-op, movie nights in the church-turned cinema. But late at night the questions stir again, and you're not the only one asking them. You start noticing quiet, subtle disappearances. The carpenter's son, used to play by the fountain, gone. The barber, chair still warm, razors laid out neatly, gone. You mention this to Giles, the domino guy. He stares at you for a long moment and says, I wouldn't poke too hard, friend. Curiosity tends to evaporate people. That night, the core dreams return. You see metal ribs twisting into a sphere. The dome again, breathing with blue light. Someone, maybe you standing inside, arms raised, whispering, let the clock break, let it bleed. And then the gears seize. The light shatters, and everything falls inward. You wake up screaming into your pillow, the sheets tangled around your legs. You need answers. So you take the ferry to the mainland. Or try to. The boat is there, small, rusted, still bearing the faded letters. M.V. Merrithew. But the captain, an old man with eyes like rain, shakes his head. No ferry today, he says. Weather's wrong. You glance around. It's sunny, barely a breeze. Still, you wait. The next day, same thing. And the day after. Eventually, the boat is just gone. Replaced by a new one. Different name. Same captain. You ask him about the Merrithew. He looks puzzled. Never heard of it. You're stuck here. Or maybe you always were. Back in town, you head to the archives. Not the library this time, but the town hall. Downstairs, in the municipal records room, there are shelves of old government correspondence. You find something. A bundle of letters tied with blue string. Dusty. Unlabeled. Inside, a decade's worth of reports. Stamped with the seal of the Canadian Department of Internal Affairs. Most are boring supply requests, census estimates, weather patterns. But one memo, dated August 7, 1934, catches your breath. Experimental Containment Zone. 4C. Status update. Following Phase 2 implementation, subject population demonstrates total temporal compliance. Environmental reversion protocol successful. Core integrity stable. Memory fragments appearing in isolated hosts, monitor, and report. Recommend transition to passive observation mode. Below that, a signature illegible. But the initials beside it? RK. You know that handwriting, because it's yours. Your pulse quickens. You flip through more documents, some typed, some handwritten, most dry and cryptic. Then one phrase leaps off the page. Kaminsky anomaly appears stable. Self-looping cognition functional. Predictive saturation approaching. Your name, your anomaly. You were the experiment. Or maybe the architect. Historians still argue whether the Kaminsky temporal array ever existed. Some claim it was Cold War tech, later dismantled. Others suggest it was myth, or misidentified weather data. But here in this dusty room on an island that refuses to age, you find proof. And it's all tangled up in your own memories. You sit back, the paper trembling in your hands. You whisper, "What did I do?" But no answer comes. Just the steady whir of a ceiling fan and the soft, rhythmic beat of something ticking. Not a clock. Something deeper. Something beneath your feet. Waiting. You don't leave the archives for a long time. The pages are still clutched in your hand, the air thick with that dusty paper smell, and your knees ache from how long you've been sitting on the cold tile floor. Your mind's gone silent in that surreal, dreamlike way it does when it can't quite handle what it's just been fed. Because now you know, you were part of this. Somehow. Not just a visitor, maybe not even a victim. Somewhere, tangled in these timelines and shadows, you were at the center of it all. Your signature, your initials, your theories, staring back at you from 80-year-old memos. You try to rationalize it. Maybe the name's a coincidence. Maybe your mind is playing tricks on you, hallucinating under the stress. But then, why do you know the code to the door at the back of the archives? You walk there slowly, eyes scanning the walls. It's a simple keypad, outdated, yellowed, with rubber buttons that click too loudly. Your fingers type a number before your brain catches up. 419. The door beeps and unlocks. Of course it does. Behind it is a stairwell. No lights. The air smells faintly metallic, like blood and batteries. You descend one step at a time, your footfalls swallowed by the dark. At the bottom, another door. Thick. Reinforced. No handle. It slides open on its own. Beyond it is a room you've never seen but instantly remember. The core. Not the dome you saw in your dreams. Not exactly. This one is broken, rusted, coated in dust and silence. Cables hang like vines from the ceiling. The walls pulse faintly, not with light, but with a memory of light like an echo trapped in time. In the center is a platform and a chair. Straps hang loose at the sides. There's something on the headrest, an indentation that fits the back of your skull perfectly. You approach it like it might bite. On the control panel next to it, a message blinks faintly. "Welcome back, Dr. Kaminsky." Your knees nearly give out. Because that is your name. Your full name. It hadn't occurred to you until now that you didn't know it. That somehow over the course of weeks, months, on this island, your identity had been whittled down to you. Just you, the guest, the observer. But you're not a guest. You built this. And then, for reasons the documents don't explain, you locked yourself inside it. You climb onto the chair not because you want to, but because something in your bones compels you. The straps don't move. Nothing restrains you. And yet, you cannot stand up. The lights in the room brighten slightly. Old screens flicker to life. A projector on the ceiling hums, then casts an image across the far wall. Test Phase 3. Subject Review. You're watching yourself now. In grainy black and white footage, you clean-shaven, intense-eyed, younger stand before a chalkboard. You're lecturing to a camera. Temporal containment isn't about pausing time, your past self says. It's about folding it inward, creating a space where external influence ceases, where trauma can be distilled, observed, recontextualized. You pace as you speak, animated and forceful. The island has become such a vessel. The residents are unaware, mostly. A few experience memory feedback echoes of the world beyond the fold. The footage cuts. New scene. You again, seated now, staring directly at the lens. I must enter. Full immersion. It's the only way to understand the fractures. Then, quieter. If I don't return, preserve the records. Someone will come. The footage ends. The wall goes blank. Silence returns, and then a new message blinks onto the console. Release loop? 2 buttons. Yes. No. You hesitate, fingers hovering, because here's the thing. If you say yes, you might wake everyone, unfold the time cocoon, restore what was frozen, maybe even escape, but at what cost? And if you say no, well, maybe that's why no one ever remembers arriving here. Because they didn't. Because they always lived here. Even you. This is the part of the story historians still argue over. Was the loop meant to preserve or punish? Was it a refuge from the outside world or a prison designed by its own warden? No one agrees. Theories fly. But the real answer has always been trapped in this very room. And tonight, you sit in the chair again, older now. Less sure, but no less essential. Because now you understand that you're not a victim or an outsider or even just a scientist. You're the key. You press yes. Nothing happens at first. Then, a vibration beneath your feet. Like the island is exhaling. Outside, the sky flickers just for a moment and the wind picks up. Windows rattle, clocks reset. People pause mid-step, mid-sentence, blinking like someone just whispered their name in a dream. In the town square, a radio turns on by itself, crackling through frequencies that haven't existed in decades. You climb slowly out of the chair. The door to the core stays open. You walk up the steps, back through the archives, into the daylight. The sun is lower than it should be. Shadows stretch longer, but the town looks the same. And yet, something feels different. You smell salt in the air, a breeze from the sea, where no wind ever used to blow. A gull cries overhead. A real one this time, not a memory. You walk to the harbor, and there it is. The MV Marathon, docked, waiting. The captain tips his hat as you approach. Leaving us? He asks. You nod. I think I'm done here. He gestures toward the boat. Well then, let's hope you remember the way back. You step onto the deck, the boards creaking underfoot. As the boat pulls away, the town grows smaller behind you. The bell tower, the cinema, the inn, all shrinking into the fog. You breathe, for the first time in a long, long while. You made it out, you think, unless this is just another layer of the loop. And next week, when some new visitor arrives, they'll find your name on an old file folder, your face in a dusty photograph, and a journal hidden under a floorboard that ends with the words, "We never left." You wake to silence, not the comforting kind that cradles you back to sleep, but the sterile, mechanical hush of too many things not making noise. The sort of quiet that only exists in hospitals, interrogation rooms, or deep underground labs. You're lying on a cot, metal frame, thin mattress, no windows, Fluorescent lights hum overhead. At first, you try to convince yourself it was all a dream. That forgotten island. The town frozen in 1934. The dome, the children who never aged, the loop. Surely it was just some strange nightmare, an echo from a story you once read. But then you swing your legs off the cot and look around. The walls are made of corrugated steel. On a nearby table sits your bag exactly as you last saw it. Tucked inside, your notes, your audio recorder, and that small photograph of the town square. The one with your initials written on the back in faded ink. No timestamp, no digital markers, just the image. And just like that, the silence collapses under the weight of realization. You're still in it, somehow. Or maybe you're outside of it now, but the boundaries are still blurry. You find a door. Beyond it is a hallway, curving slightly, without windows or signage. It feels like walking through the belly of a submarine. Eventually, you reach a junction. One direction leads to another corridor. The other opens onto a small observation deck, shielded by glass. Outside is the ocean, and far off, on the horizon, you see the island. Tiny, perfect, still wreathed in that faint shimmer, almost like heat waves rising off asphalt, a mirage that never fades. You stare at it for a long time, until the voice behind you says, "You activated the release." You turn. It's a woman in a lab coat, older, calm, like someone who has seen 100 versions of this scene before. "Does that mean it worked?" you ask. She shrugs gently. "It means the test progressed." You frown. "Test? Temporal moral choice modeling," she says. "Phase 3. You scored within expected parameters." She walks toward a small terminal and taps something in. "You weren't the first," she adds. "Won't be the last, but your cycle was stable. That's progress." You lean against the glass, watching the island shimmer. "Were they real?" you ask. She pauses. "Define real." You don't press her, because part of you already knows the answer. The children laughing on the school steps. The old man fishing from a pier that never aged. The constable with too many memories and not enough words. All of them were constructs. Real in the way memories are real emotions encoded into simulations, refined over decades. But you were the wild card, the anomaly. You were real. Probably. Historians and scientists still argue about whether programs like this are ethical, whether it's moral to trap consciousness inside temporal frameworks, whether identity survives repetition, or if you just become a ghost in your own memory. They publish papers about it. You lived it. The woman turns back to you. "You'll start to forget," she says softly. "It always fades." You swallow hard. "What if I don't want to forget?" She smiles gently, almost sympathetically. "Then you'll be the first." She hands you a folder. Inside are images stills from your time on the island. Moments that feel impossibly far away. You sitting in the church, walking through fog, looking at that dead radio set that suddenly hummed to life. And near the back, a picture of the core, empty, dust settling on the chair. You flip one more page and see a handwritten message. "If you're reading this, it worked. We'll be watching you. Try to rest. K." You look up, but the woman is gone. The hallway behind you is empty. The sea is calm outside. The shimmer over the island is dimmer now, like the dome is losing power, or maybe no longer needed. Your fingers tighten around the folder. You take one last look at the island, and then you leave the observation deck, walking slowly down the corridor, heart heavy with questions that no one ever answers. And somehow, that's okay, because for once, you're outside the loop, free. And even if memory fades, the feeling won't. You remember what the cobblestones felt like under your boots. You remember the sound of distant laughter and the way shadows moved wrong on the walls of that cinema. You remember the fear and the awe and the quiet voice in the back of your head that whispered, "You've been here before." Because maybe time never froze at all. Maybe it just circled in on itself, waiting for someone like you to notice the ripples and to finally break the pattern. And now that you've done it, maybe the island can sleep again. Maybe you can sleep again. Now that the island has faded behind you and the sea has gone still, you can feel your thoughts softening too. Your breath deepens, your pulse slows, that tension behind your eyes gone. like mist on a mirror. You're not sure what was real and what wasn't. Maybe the island existed, maybe it never did. But either way, it left its mark, like all strange places do. Somewhere in your mind, a village still hums with radios that shouldn't work, and children still play under skies that never change. Let them be. Let them fade. You don't need to remember the way back. All you need now is rest. Close your eyes. Let the looping echoes of those frozen days blur into the background. Let the ticking clocks fall silent, one by one. There's nothing chasing you anymore. No puzzles to solve. No doors to unlock. No versions of yourself waiting in some flickering projection booth with a warning. Just you, here, safe and free. Sink deeper into the dark. Let the waves take it all, your memories, your questions, even your name. Tomorrow, you'll wake somewhere new. But tonight, you drift. And whatever that island was, whatever secrets it buried in fog and silence, they'll wait quietly, unchanging, as they always have. Good night, traveler. Sleep well. End of script. Sweet dreams.